Roll call. We're good with IT? Yeah.
It's up to you. Where's the application for Miss?
Just clarifying for the quorum, but I just got notified Oliver resigned, so.
Yes, sir.
Could you table the minutes until I get back? I forgot to bring a printed copy.
All right, we've got Georgina in.
Yeah.
We have roll call.
Mr. Alma Martinez.
Here.
Mrs. Helen Strader. Mr. Krutek Bakta.
Present.
Mr. Matt Martinez.
Present.
Ms. Georgina Ortega Angel.
Present.
Thank you, sir. We have a quorum.
All right, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the agenda is pretty small, so if there's not any discussion or objection, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
All right, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right. On the approval of minutes, we're going to table the approval of minutes for now. I just heard that they weren't ready, so I'll entertain a motion to table the approval of minutes.
So,
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. The minutes are ready. They were just, they were left out on the desk. He went to go pick them up, so he'll be back shortly. You just have to pick them up. He just didn't put them in the, with all the hail and the rain and us trying to run out of the building, we left a piece of our paperwork behind.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to table until they arrive.
Yes, sir.
so moved. Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, moving on to new business. Discussion, review, and recommendation regarding lodger's tax application for funding of Dia de los Muertos.
Chair, last meeting we had, this one was tabled because Ms. Johnson wasn't here. I didn't have information on how to explain it, so that's why it was brought to this special meeting, sir, to go ahead and allow her the opportunity to go ahead and speak on the event and give you guys a purview of what's to come.
And my apologies for not making the last meeting. I didn't get notification, and then later when I found out I was sent an email, I did check in my junk and I did have it, but I had missed it. My name is Martha Johnson. I think I know most of you. I have a packet that I'd like to give to each one of you to refer to. I don't think I need to explain much to any of you about Dia de los Muertos. But as you know, it is a growing attraction throughout the United States. It is a Mexican tradition, Mexican custom, Dia de los Muertos. And for about the last 35 years, I've done many classroom presentations. And I think it's really caught on, not just in our community, but nationwide. Last year, I got a committee of about 9 teachers together, teachers who had shown a great deal of interest in it, and we put together our first celebration for the community. Not knowing what to expect, we thought if we had 35 or 40 people participate, we'd be delighted because it was our first time doing it. We had over 400 participants. The fire marshal wanted to kick us out of Sala de Madrid because there were so many people there. What we did, we had a display of ofrendas in Sala de Madrid, and then we had 5 presentations that afternoon, and it was school children dancing, high school students who had written poetry honoring deceased family members. We had a mariachi group. Highlands helped us out by providing pan de muerto. And all in all, it was a huge success. So much so that already, I mean, people are very excited about what we hope will be our second annual event. Again, all of us are either retired or working teachers. It's a committee of about 9 people. Last year, we tapped into the city, and Chuck Griego was very helpful in closing off streets and so on. And at that time, Mayor Louis Trujillo proclaimed it Dia de los Muertos in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and I did find the
Yeah,
proclamation.
it is.
Okay. And he read the proclamation before the parade started. This year, we're trying to make it bigger and better, as with most events, people always try to improve. And we have a headliner that we would like to contract to be the grand finale, if you will, of our event. Again, it's going to take place on Saturday, November 2nd. We'll have a parade that goes from Carnegie to the Plaza Park. And then the Plaza Hotel has offered to let us have our ofrenda display in the ballroom. So we'll be able to accommodate more people, more ofrendas, but we hope the weather cooperates and we'll be able to have all of our presentations in the gazebo itself. When I filled out the paperwork for the lodger's tax, I think I cited an amount of $4,800. The big chunk of that is $3,000 for a performer. It's a band. They're from Mexico and Central America, and they play just some really happy tunes. There's 5 or 6 musicians. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, that's the big chunk of money. That would be $3,000. Many of the questions on the application I could not complete because at this point it is not an overnight event. What we foresee is actually a 2-day celebration where we would hope to bring people in from outlying communities. I can tell you, if it's anything like it was last year, I expect anywhere from 800 to 900 people to participate. Children from both districts are very involved. I don't know what else I need to present on or I don't know what else.
All right. So we'll thank you for presenting, and we'll ask questions,
Sure.
and I'll open it
Please.
up. So the band, so for they have a website and
Oh,
social
yes.
media and so on. They're from Mexico, so they'll be able to advertise
Oh, yes.
Las Vegas.
In fact,
accordingly.
and I purposely did not bring my phone because I didn't want it to interrupt,
Yeah.
but I actually have some great videos that they sent to further promote them, and I could provide those if you want me to run out to my car.
Okay, and are there ticket sales or
No.
is it's open to
No.
the, okay,
Everything is free, as we did it last year, everything was free.
okay. And then I think you put in the application or there's somewhere, but it looks like you've been counting the attendance. So
Yes,
you're able to keep track of it with a clicker and
through
so
the
on.
fire
but-
marshal.
And so on, okay. And then with the band and so on, hopefully they bring in some outside people, but we should be able to have, like, if there's a way to figure out how many came from outside and so on. So we've passed it as lodger's tax, and we'll usually put it in our approval if we do approve that you return to us after the event and tell
course.
us how we go. So if there's any other ways that you can provide information on the attendance, how many people were from here. I mean, the total would be great, and how many from the outside. And then in future years, we could figure out how to grow the event.
My guess, and I'm just maybe thinking out loud, but my guess is that once we advertise Noelia y sus Santos, which is the name of the group, we will have a number of followers coming from out of
Yeah,
town.
hopefully we can advertise it. So it looks like in the application you have a breakdown of 3,000 for the band and 2,000 for promotional supplies. So other than the band, no set advertising to bring to.
I know, and that doesn't include me, but there are
Mhm.
several committee members that are very savvy when it comes to social media. And we'll be advertising in that way. In fact, we've already put out just a flyer online advertising the parade and asking for people to sign up. And I've had, I think, about 7 solicitors already from vendors and a number of people who already want to be in the parade.
Yeah, and so in the future, I mean, look, the main purpose of Lodgers Tech, I'm just running on, is the promotion of the events, not to hold the event, to run the event. You're certainly participating and on that. So the main guidance, and we certainly have a lot of money right now, and we, in the future, we'd be like to advertise those methods. I just don't want to turn into a band paying entity as well. Certainly it's promotional, but we'd like to, at least if we tell bands to come, that we'd like to say, hey, we're going to advertise, and that's the main goal for Lodgers Tax, is the promotion of a set events in tourism. So for the guidelines going forward, and that's what
Sure.
I've decided, so people know going forward when they apply, they got to be thinking advertising and thinking big advertising. And if it's clear guidelines and cleared advertising, I think it's certainly easier to approve here. Now, as far as the promotional supplies, what's the detail of that?
Well, our plans have changed since we filled out that, or since I filled out that application, because one of the things that we had thought of initially, but we're getting so close to the event that I don't know that we'll be able to put them together, is we were hoping to have 3 workshops leading up to it. Maybe 45-minute, 1-hour workshops, one of which was going to be basically a presentation on what Dia de los Muertos is, what's involved in setting up an ofrenda, what the significance is of all of that. Another one we were hoping to make papel picado, which is part of it, and another one we hadn't identified yet. But when we ran into this snag, basically what happened was we were under the understanding that we were a city-sanctioned event because Mayor Trujillo had read this proclamation. But come to find out that
Well, I can remember prior events. Like I remember growing up as a kid here, and I know we had Dia de los Muertos, and literally I was in class, at Romero event, so I know there was prior celebrations. I mean, it's shitty, but I know it's been there. So I think it's a great event. So at this point, that's squared away. So it'd just be the 3,000 for the band, correct?
at this point, I think that's really what's most crucial,
Okay.
because I don't know how much more we're going to be able to incorporate.
All right. I'll entertain questions, guys.
Just,
Omer?
just want to really congratulate, excuse me, congratulate you on. I attended the event last year and it was
Oh, I'm so glad.
wonderful. So it was really good. So congratulate you on that, and also recognize you in terms of a group of people in the community coming together and putting on an event. Because we've got a lot of events that are not, kind of been taken over by the city because either they got started and then they kind of got dropped, but we want to continue them. So it's, to see a group of volunteers coming forward and saying, we want to do this. I think that it's important that we support that, and want to recognize you for that. Really appreciate that.
I appreciate the comment, and I do want to say it, and it's not to pat ourselves on the back, but last year, all the decorations were purchased out of our own pocket. Everything we had that was set up in Sala de Madrid came out of our own pocket, and we saved everything because we're teachers and we're resourceful, and we know that we're going to use them again this year. But it was volunteers. I mean, we were begging, borrowing for everything we could get and paid for what we couldn't get.
And you did a great job, because I could barely
Thank
find
you.
the seat.
I appreciate
That's
that.
in the back.
Thank you.
I'm a little.
Oh, sorry. Were you not finished?
No, nothing.
Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Let me make a note of you. Then, in terms of promotion, and I think we touched on that. And it seems like you'll be using a lot of social media for promoting it.
Yes, last year, once we developed our poster through the city, we were able to get them printed in color, which was wonderful. We were able to set them up around town. It went out, of course, online. And the gal that is really the spearhead when it comes to social media and promotion is the librarian for the West Las Vegas schools. And she was going to be here, but couldn't get out of school. I wish she would have been here because she could more specifically answer your questions.
Okay, so I'm thinking, and I think with the, given the short, short amount of time you have, et cetera, and that's those are probably a good venue, that's a positive venue to utilize for the event, because we would like to attract more people, not only from the community, and I think we've got already good support there, but with the band that you're bringing, you'll probably bring people more from outside. I
That's all.
appreciate that.
And-
Thank you.
And any information that you have, inside, outside the total, but any data collection you can have, so going in, we know where we could advert, we know, hey, it's a big event, locally, how do we grow it? And then we know who we can target or so on, or grow that area. So, for all of our events, that's what we want is to gather, and the board hasn't said any known, you must have this much or so on, but we just at least like to have a report of what was the attendance, and you've given some of it, and we want to just keep improving every year. Go ahead.
I'm a little confused. We have two for the same day event. So that's number one. The other thing is, are you guys a nonprofit?
No,
So do we fund nonprofits?
I'm not aware that,
Because there's been
This is a
other
for-profit.
organizations, yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is it a for-profit, nonprofit? Because
we're just a group of,
how does that
Teachers.
work? Can you tell us?
I don't know, is there a requirement that it has to be a nonprofit?
Because there's been other organizations or other businesses that have come up to us and they said no because they were for profit.
I guess what I can do is remind the board that you guys did fund We Be Racing, and they weren't a 501c3. That one was funded. So, if I have to go off of history,
so
you guys have funded people that weren't
We Be Racing.
501c3s.
the We Be Reason was a
Racing. We Be Racing,
for-profit?
Yes.
yes.
Mr. Chair. We'll probably have to talk to finance.
Yeah, so I'm a little confused there, but I'm not finished.
Go ahead.
Why do we have two on the same?
Because
So-
at one point, they had asked the city to take it over, and we were not sure if the city ever actually officially accepted it. And we didn't know if that was gonna take place between the time the applications were done and then when it would go before lodgers. So we did two just to be safe, that if the city actually officially took it over, there was one in for the city, but if they didn't, that we still had hers.
So the one that you sent in the packet is the latest one?
There were two that were sent in the packet.
Yeah, there were two.
I sent the one that the city filled out and the one that Ms. Johnson filled out.
As part of the attachments?
Yes.
I only got the city one.
I only got one, yeah, I didn't get two. So I got the Sunny 505, last year's contract, and then I've got one application for the Los
The other
Muertos.
question is, I'm very familiar with Day of the Dead. As you know, Casa Cultura did it for over 5 years, well over Guadalupe County or Santa Rosa County, Clayton. Colfax came in from Springer, from Santa Rosa, both of the schools, well attended. Miguel went and did, and you helped him, I think, maybe on one or two of the presentations to educate the schools. So it really is, I like the idea, I want to see it to come back. I'm really there with you. I just want to make sure that, because we denied some other people because of that same, they were not,
I don't think the Yolo Fest is a 501c3 that you approved last meeting.
so can you have your
So,
legal people clarify
look,
that? Because
yeah,
if
we-
we're approving stuff, I
We
don't want
do
it
need to
come
do
back
that,
to us.
and if it was approved, last, that's something we need to look at. So as far as for-profit, that's something that the city needs to look at as well if they pass through the council.
I've looked at the DFA and I don't see anything about nonprofit in there.
Okay, it stopped us in the past, so we probably
Yes.
need clarification.
I mean, with all
But
respect,
here, you're not listed as a for-profit, you're just a volunteer group.
we're just a volunteer.
Right, so the other entities we're talking about, they're a business, they're a listed entity as profit, so they're holding their event, they gain profit from holding the event. Okay, well, we should probably need to look at it a little bit closer on that, on what the guidelines and rules is.
We could look into that. Again, you guys are the recommending board. It passes through you. You're the chair.
Okay.
And at
But I
that
need
time,
staff to help us on-
at that time would have been the better time to vet it instead of, in hindsight, to be the I got you person isn't a good thing to do either for the
No,
chair.
no, we're not doing, I got you, but she brings up a good point. We've had it as a board in the
Understood.
past, we've
Understood,
brought it
but
up.
also, it has to be said to you that you have approved them in the past. So to be the I got you guy is not a good look for the board.
And I agree, and I'm taking responsibility for the board. If we did it, we put something we need to look into, and I gotta see it now.
I definitely, I agree with you going on the record, but if it is 501c3 only that you can be approving, then go ahead and make that, on record right now. You guys could tell us that you only want 501c3s, and we'll make sure that we
Correct, as
tell,
in the past, it.
that we tell people that come forward, like Ms. Johnson, that ain't a 501c3, that she can't apply.
Well, I don't think she's said that she's a for-profit. My main concern is for the for-profit entities. We
But,
probably need to clear that up.
basically, sir, that mean that they tell you that, you gotta make sure that they're the 501c3, because you want a 501c3 is what the chair is asking for.
Okay.
If they don't have a 501c3 registered, then they can't apply is what you're saying. That's what you're telling me right now, because you wanna ask finance for approval on this stuff, but this board is ran by community development. And it needs to be understood by the chair, that when we bring it forward to you, we bring it to you for recommendation. Not, so if you recommend it, I'm taking your recommendation through to council for approval, for ratification, of course, so
What I'm
we
trying
need
to
to
say
make
is
sure that we stay on
also
those
need
lines.
help, so that we don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to address that now, is that, look, if we have done it, and it's been brought up before, and it's brought to our attention, but that was a prior time, so this is something we need to clarify before we move on and make another mistake. So if we did make a mistake in those prior times as a board without knowing or clarifying or bringing that up, then let us address it. I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm trying to, if it's down to the blame, I'll take it as a laundress tax board, but I need to address it. The board needs to address it if it's
Agreed.
something that we're doing wrong. Georgina did bring up something. We have addressed it in the past. I agree, it's something that we need to take a look at, just so we're handling the right advice. So if that's gone through council and so on, I mean, even they need that information that maybe they didn't have because they didn't get sent to us from us. So if we can get the clarification from finance, I am getting feedback from things that are being approved on whether this is correct or not. So it's our job to do due diligence before we pass, right? And so I'm not doing my job if I just let things pass through and we're not making sure that it flies down the road.
Yes, sir.
So let's clarify.
I've read through the state statute 3-38-15 and beyond, and I have not seen anything that says it must be a 501c3. It must be something that is promoting, advertising, those kind of things on the first. There's a whole formula in there. I think on your 700.
I'm addressing, yeah, it must be.
I have not seen anywhere in there that it said it had to be a 501c3.
Okay,
I do have in front of me the ordinance 18-02, where it doesn't say anything about 501c3. All it does say is that these events must be, half of the proceeds of the lodger's tax from the 3%, should be used for publicizing and advertising and promoting, facility and events. And the proceeds after that have a different meaning, sir. So there's a lot of things that have to be looked at before we start going to other places and start asking for information that the board may not know yet. So you gotta come to the staff so that we can vet what you're feeling, so that we can make sure we get the proper answers and we don't confuse the situation and put department against department. Because right now,
We certainly don't wanna-
what it's seeming like is that you're trying to put finance against community development to see who
no.
can make the judgment call on what gets spent and how the money's used.
Look,
So I want to make sure we go through the ordinance and use words instead of thoughts.
we are using words, so the finance director himself was in on a prior meeting before all of this started. And so we never got clarification on items we had approved before, as far as the infrastructure. So it's the finance director that's.
Again, sir,
And
we're
so
going
we're
off of
trying to address
ordinance
those meetings.
1802, that's how we're bringing these forward to you. And it does say in here that that it is for infrastructure. There's infrastructure in here. So it's a conflict between what the finance director might perceive and what I might perceive. It needs to come to that type of conclusion, but right now, what's in front of me, it says that there's money that can be spent from lodger's tax on infrastructure.
So when it goes forward to council, and this is a good time to have this discussion, when it goes forward to council and finance director is saying one thing and you're interpreting, how does that get solved?
Well, that'll be solved now in a few minutes, just, I got another meeting to go take care of that situation. So I'm gonna go look into that, with,
So if
with
you
our,
can
with our city
clarify
attorney.
for us, then we
Yes,
can.
I think that's the best way of doing it. I think, that's the way it should be. So if you're getting calls, the best thing that the chair can do is call the person that runs your board, and that's community development, instead of calling finance directors or anybody else. I think it's better if I could handle it for you and get you the answers so that we could come right through with the right answers and get everybody on the same page, instead of me perceiving it one way and somebody else perceiving it another way. I still run this board. The board belongs to the community development department and the director. So we gotta make sure we move that way.
I think the best way to resolve this is, number one, allow Lucas to go back and check on that next meeting, what, it looks like it's a clarification meeting. But ultimately, the best way to resolve this, and Elmer, you were here before, so you have an idea sort of where I'm headed, I hope. We really just need the city legal people to give us an opinion, you know, if it's allowed nonprofit or for-profit, volunteer group, whatever it happens to be, and at least we have it in writing, at least legal up to the point, okay? And that's probably the best way to resolve this, because we don't want to put departments against departments. That's not
Certainly
the right
not.
route to go. But I guess until now, I didn't realize that we had done that for that for-profit before, but at the end of the day, I look at it as lodger's taxes for a reason. We're trying to get people to come to this event, whatever event it is. And if it's a for-profit or nonprofit, and if there's a fee for the for-profits, whatever the deal happens to be, let's get it in writing. So I'm gonna sort of defer to Elmer, because I know that this is not the first time we worked on this. Elmer, if you have anything to add to that, or, I just recommend that legal give everybody the rationale.
And that's another department too, but that's not, that doesn't mean that we're pitting each other. And I certainly didn't want that to be implied. I want city government to work correctly. They certainly shouldn't be against each other, but if all of the entities are on the same page, then we're stronger all together. There's nobody pitting. Finance confirms, legal confirms. There's not the ambiguity. That way the board can do its job knowing that we haven't done anything incorrectly. And just, we're human. Just because things are done incorrectly doesn't mean that we can't address it. So if we could get some of those clarifications, fine. I'm just saying we have brought that up before. So for whatever reason, and that, at that time, there was, I think, a different finance director, and you weren't here for some of the times that we did it, but it has been brought up. And yes, we have rejected groups. She is correct for not being a 501c, and they're very clear for profit. For here, we don't find anything in there for a 501c that you can see. So for your department, we're clearing it. I guess just for the question the other way, does the entity, if we don't see any verbiage in it, is there any verbiage just keeping from a for-profit entity from, like you said, you gave those other examples?
It has nothing in there. It just tells us pretty much how we could spend that first percentage amount. And that first percentage amount needs to be spent on advertising, publicizing, and promoting public events for public facilities. So that part, that money, so like the way Morris said before, they say we make $700,000 a year in for lodger's tax. So 280,000, I believe, has to be spent on what we're talking about, promotional, advertising, and all these events and all that stuff. The rest of it, there's no clarification of what you can and can't use it for, Krutech. So we got to make sure that we're looking at how you're supposed to spend the
Absolutely.
proceeds.
So if you-
But it doesn't say anything about not being able to approve of a 501c3 or being able to, that they have to be 501c3. And 18-02, this was revised in April of 2018. At that time, it was Mayor Tonita Gurule Giron. that did this. So that's the thing we're still going with. If it's something different that you and the finance director have spoken about, it needs to be brought to us so that we can all be on the same page, because I don't know what Morris is working towards, and I don't know what you guys have discussed.
I have not been able to, like you said, we tried to address it right after the prior law just texted me, we tried to get a meeting together, but we weren't able to get it together. And that would have clarified it, there. So that, as far as finance sector for that, that's what I'm talking about, is the meeting that we collectively had. So that leads to a lot of stuff. But if we're clear, and then finance should be able to clear it then, and we're good with legal, then that's a good path forward. If not, then that kind of inhibits us from passing things if we're not sure.
Just for a point of order as well, sir, or point of reference, we did invite finance to be here today, via email. So just so you know, we were ready and wanted to make sure that we got you the best answers we possibly could to. And I think Morris needed to be here to hear that as well. We need to be on the same page to make sure we're giving you guys the best resource to give the best decision you can. I don't see Mrs. Johnson, why she wouldn't be able to be going through, but if you feel because she's not a 501c3, then by all means, sir, go ahead.
No, I haven't said that. I'm just addressing what was done. I'm not saying, and if you're clarifying that there's not any,
I don't see it here, anywhere of a 501c3.
so I'm just doing due diligence of if there is anything that's stopping us or that council needs to hear that would be stopping us. If not, then I'll leave it open. But I've gotta ask the questions, and you're right. I missed it on the prior ones because we've done it before and we could have clarified it at
But
those times.
I'm not saying you missed it, because according to what's in front of me, you didn't miss it. You didn't miss it. I mean, what the key is to lodger's tax, what I've always heard from the boards and from you guys is putting heads in beds. So, I mean, who's gonna bring events in? Who else is gonna bring events in? I mean, if there was a point of a conversation that we had not too long ago where you guys asked us to get a big, event put together where we could make monies back for the coffers. So, I mean, how, where does it change? I just want to make
So I
sure that
guess I'll
we're.
give you an example, and then I don't know if, because Elmer was there when we did the reader board, and there was an agreement there that we couldn't put for-profit up on the reader board to advertise. Was that a specific thing we're referring to, or was that more of a state ordinance we're referring to? Because at that time, that's what was brought up.
I can't recall that at all, to be honest with you. But if you've got municipal league conference, or conference coming into town, the conference is on at the Plaza Hotel. So what? There you're saying Plaza Hotel, there's a profit agency and you're having an event. So what? I mean.
Well, there's the vendors of the
Do
event,
you
but.
not put the event on the reader board because it's at the plaza?
But is the event only to benefit the event holder?
The event is, it's an explicit event, a municipal league conference or a county conference. And you say the county conference is going to, or the League of Zoning Officials is going to occur at the Plaza Hotel. Do you not list the name of the Plaza Hotel?
You'd have to. I'm just referring to the rules of the reader board, and that's some of the things that happened during that
I can't
time.
recall about any reader boards. I'm just saying.
So if we have, say like we have a specific entity and they're here and they're here for profit, but we're advertising them on that reader board, say it's at the Surf.
I don't think we would do that. I
No,
don't,
we don't
because
do
that
that.
would be, every restaurant in town could ask us to advertise, and that's always been a standing rule that we don't do that.
We don't do that. So,
Okay.
But,
so
so I think what my thought is if somebody comes before you and they say, well, I'm not a 501c3, but I want to hold this event, and it's going to bring people to our city, you as the board have to sit there and say, what are you asking us to do to help? Is it going to help create that person to receive a big profit, or is it going to bring a much-needed event to the city that's going to bring money into the city?
okay.
I think if somebody said, I want you to pay for some great name band to come, but I'm going to charge $100 a ticket, you would turn around and say no. And I think that would be what this board is set up to do. And so I think that you have to kind of look at each event, and is that event going to be good for the city and not just for the person wanting to promote the event? That's my opinion of how it would work.
So then the second thing would be, or the final thing would be, if we go with this one, then this one drops. Okay,
Yes.
that's the clarity.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was why we did two, was because
Just in case.
there was this discussion back and forth as to was the city gonna take it over or was it not gonna take it over,
Okay,
and where we stood, so we just wanted to make sure the event was covered.
all right.
Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, and I guess, you know, if we're going off of that ordinance, and that's the most current one, that doesn't list breakdown one way or another, okay? So I understand exactly where you're coming from, Lucas, and if we're trying to create one now, that's not the plan here. You know, I don't know how long it's been since that's been updated, since Tonita was mayor, I guess, so that's, you know, it's been a few years now. The law could have changed for lodger's tax statewide, because that one's the one that ultimately tells us what we can or can't use the funds for. And then if we have part of our dollars that are earmarked for some things and part for other things, and doesn't have specifics, well, then we have some flexibility there. But I just go back to this, we have a whole bunch of money. And I'm not saying that, you know, this is a free-for-all, but at the end of the day, we missed out on a whole bunch of events during COVID. We missed out during the fire, some of the flooding. And now we're trying to bring some of those things back. Yeah, they're gonna recover little by little, but we've gotta help those events happen, okay? So this is an example of one I think we need to bring back. I remember going to Miguel Angel's altar over there at Highlands at Burrs Hall, I think it was. Boy, talk about a lesson, you know what I
And
mean?
this wasn't this was, I think we need to disconnect this event to the discussion that we're trying to have on what's
yes.
to clarify and whatnot. Look, even for the 501c, there wasn't clarification at that time. It got brought to us, right? As a staff member at that point, I don't want to point to anyone, but it got brought to the board. And at that time, we had to address it. And whether we got good information or bad information or so on, it might have been to the staff. Apparently, that didn't get clarified at that time. So that's why it's important to clarify, so then we don't run into a situation where we're trying to apply something that shouldn't apply. I just am addressing it, and as many departments can be on the same page to clarify it. You're correct, you didn't, and I've read over it, again, I don't see anything on 501c. The only ambiguity I would have is, that doesn't mean I've read over every ordinance of the city. So we don't want to make sure that's, we haven't made violations down the road. Yes, we approved it here, but in procurement, you name it, contracts, we make it down the road in another section of the ordinance. As long as we're above board and the board knows it, it's easier for us to fold. If we have it clear on the 501c, then we're not having this conversation. So any moment, any time period, I think we have a good group where we can clarify, and it's not meant to point at anyone. It just helps us move along quicker and make decisions. I don't want to connect it to this event. I'm not pointing to this event to make as just the opportunity to say, hey, these are things going on, and to address what Georgina brought up.
Lucas, you may want to consider looking, what we're talking about is a policy. A lot of things have happened, you know, I'm asked questions about how you did things. We know how we did things, but a lot of things have happened in between. So what you may want to do is consult with Municipal League and find out what policies other communities have with regard to this particular matter. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, and make it and bring forward and let's establish a policy. That way, everybody's on the same page, and we don't keep applicants waiting. While we figure out whether we can or can't fund them, et cetera.
Sir.
If they know what the policy is and know what the rule is. So I would contact Municipal League and see what the policy is, what other communities do in terms of policy, and bring that forward. And you adopt that as a department through the city manager.
Yes,
The
sir.
city manager adopts a policy or the administrative regulation and how it works. Then that administrative regulation is how it's administered. And we don't have to have issues between departments. It's the city manager saying there's a regulation.
Yeah, that's certainly not what I would probably. I apologize if that's what was in play. I'm just trying to use the resources and trying to learn. Look, even council asking questions, and they'll refer to who can clarify the situation. And you're right, it's your department, you're running community things, but you also have other department members that are helping, right? You're not the legal, you're not the thing, you're doing, you have plenty of stuff on the plate, and that's why we have other guys working together that can do it. And if it comes down to it, hopefully during that meeting, if it goes up straight up to city manager, we can clarify some of those things, and then you just let us know, this is the ruling, we looked into it with city attorney, we looked into it with finance, this is the ruling, and we'll go accordingly.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I would recommend getting an administrative regulation. I mean, we used to have a whole stack of books of them. I don't think we had a regulation specifically to this, but there's probably one out there in the state of New Mexico.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm looking at this request then, if we went on to the question, and I'm looking at the two items, the 3,000 for the talent, and then promotional
Oh,
supplies
no,
of
we're not
2,000.
going with that one. We're gonna go with this one.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we have the right.
It's
we
gonna
all-
be like this one. That's the city. That was just in case.
Okay, I didn't get this
Yeah.
one, so let me see.
So this is the one that I picked up with my packet today, and that's the one that Mrs. Johnson provided.
Okay. Well, then I move that we approve this,
So what was the request on, hold on, before we,
it's the last,
we need to be on the same page. So even on this newer one, and it looks like a different handwriting, we see 3,000 for the band and 2,000 for the promotional supplies. That I see on page 2.
that's the city one.
That's the city.
That's the old one.
So
This
what
is
is
the one.
hers?
Hers is right here.
This is it's 3,000 for the band, posters, flyers, 400, workshop materials, 400, t-shirts, 1,000. Is that still okay? Okay. I move that we approve that.
So on the 2,000, you're not removing then?
Well,
It's broken
No,
down.
it's broken down here. You're looking at the wrong
No,
one.
when I spoke to her, that she
Oh.
was saying that, because you were saying on that 2,000, you were gonna do some other things.
we've had so many changes in the last few months.
Okay,
We would be extremely grateful with anything that you could provide us.
So we're going by what you submitted, which was this one right here.
It's 4,800.
It's 48.
Yeah, the band is,
It's right here.
that's the one
Yeah.
that's the
And then these,
crucial one.
this was your other supplement that you had
Because
broken down.
Even what I presented today was out of pocket, we don't have any funding, so
So-
yes.
But this will cover your supplies for the public art that you're gonna be doing with
Yes.
the presentations in the schools,
Yes,
okay? And then this one here, T-shirts,
we can eliminate T-shirts.
okay, so on the 3,000, we can be clear, because we know it's advertising out of town, social media, it's very easy for us to approve. So that's pretty clear for us as far as promotional items that are advertised for this band outside of town,
Right.
bringing people in. And that would meet, our guidelines for it, so if,
I'm a little concerned about your budget because I used to do this. So I know. You've got flyers and posters at 400. You have workshop materials at 400.
And
That's minimal. I mean, you're scraping the barrel on that one. I know what those supplies are. So I don't know, can I make a recommendation?
if it's not what she requested for, and I'm hearing that too,
Okay,
if
that's why I'm
she hasn't
asking
made the
you.
request in the packet, and again, in the last one, puts through something, is there when the entity itself isn't requesting that funding? But on here, even for the posters and so on, are they going outside, the band for sure, because you're getting that promotional, right? But if the posters and flyers and so on, and what we ask is, you just use other resources to do the local advertising, but if it's going out, say the promotional items is well out of town, it's coming from Mexico and it's bringing someone in, or even Albuquerque, but they're clear promotional items that are promoting you outside of town, then that could work. If not, I mean, let's start with the band, and in the future, I think we can grow this with real advertising outside of town, putting them up on magazines or online or so on. We could really use our largest tax monies to actually do what it needs to do and advertise your event outwardly. But let's get you going for it with that could be really clear. So I mean, I could entertain a motion to clear the band at least.
Well, I move that we approve the 4,800. That was my motion.
And I will second that.
Well, I can't, I'm not entertaining the motion. I'm rejecting the motion because the second portion of it, that portion of
So which
that,
portion is it that I'm
the
not going?
posters and
The posters?
the posters and the workshop materials and so on, and the T-shirts, right? But if they're going out further out, but if they're not, and that's what, we've done prior to, but the band is promoted, they come from Mexico, that is going outwardly.
Yeah, but the posters go out. They go out to all the school districts, they go out to all the communities, surrounding communities.
Are they going to the school districts?
Oh, yes, and we have to print everything, and that's why,
As long as it meets your 65-mile radius, and you can do that
Right,
easily.
they're not all in town.
no,
They're going to the out towns. Okay. And so again, that, if we're clear and concise about that and
Yes.
Well, that's the request that she put down, and that's what I moved on, and we got a second.
and the T-shirts as well?
we had hoped to make T-shirts and make them available to like the first 200 participants.
That's a promotional thing.
The T-shirts will
Put
say,
the, sponsored by the lodger's tax?
okay.
Okay, so on the T-shirts, they would be going out or they would be here?
To our first participants that
Okay.
show up for the parade.
So you'll be able to produce those T-shirts on time and be advertising Las Vegas, but they would all be distributed here.
And I would absolutely follow up after the event with any kind of a breakdown that you would need.
Okay, I, definitely so. So again, the guidelines are, we're doing the promotion of and certain, we've had a slippery slope here for some of it, and I think it's gonna come back to us. But the guidelines were advertising, for these events, okay? At least outside of 65 miles, and it goes out. Some of the local, advertising, so on, for posters and so on, we've done that internally, that isn't handled by lodger's tax. Some of the items is specifically, and I'm gonna ask for clarification when we do it, especially if it's gonna say City of Las Vegas, fine, but if it's something that's just shirts and it doesn't exactly be the promotion of in any way for the town, we just brought shirts,
I
then
understand.
that's ambiguity, and I'd rather not have that, and it's not anything personal to the event. It's just if we're not clear, that is on the print, it needs to be a clear, and again, I don't wanna use this as the example, but, it's gonna be the indication that it's the promotion of. So the band, if the posters are going out, certainly fine, that occurs, and now we're down to the T-shirts.
Yeah, you'll submit your invoice to community development. And the invoice will have proof of what you purchased and what it looks like. So Mr. Marquez will be able to look at that and determine if it does meet the criteria or not. That's why we have an administrative person to do that, so that's the way that would be handled. Now, of course, if it doesn't meet the requirements, if some advertising doesn't have that, then he has the authority to reject that. That's the way that works.
Okay, so can we have a motion in accordance of, look, if we're
You have a
violating
motion on
anything?
the floor in a second.
First and
on that.
second, I'll call for the question, call for a vote, and then we can have other motions.
So we could-
I'm prepared to make a motion that there be a report back.
Following it, right, like we did the prior time. So just to,
And I'll approve that as part of my motion, and I'm sure the
I will
second would too.
second.
okay. So, I'll address, roll call?
We got Elmer Martinez,
Yes.
we got Matt Martinez.
Yes.
And Georgina.
Yes. That one's mine.
The motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
I hope it
coming.
comes back in multiple quantities.
Absolutely, yeah, we look forward to the report. Thank you for coming to present, and hopefully we'll have a streamlined, procedure, in the future, that's not so delayed, but,
I hope I didn't open a can.
yeah, I certainly don't wanna create any BS or anything, but, we'll, thank you for coming.
Thank you, and
Thank you so much.
Martha, if you need any help
Martha.
with anything, please
I
give me a call.
appreciate that. Yes, thank
Martha
you.
Johnson,
Yes.
thank you, and thank you for your volunteers. And
Yeah, thank you very
I
much.
will let them know. We're
Please
having
let
a
them know.
meeting on Friday. Thank you. Can I go out from here?
So then that one is no longer, it's dead. Okay.
That one died.
Yeah, that one died. Did we need to make a motion on it? It's good? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if it's
Possible if I can speak real quick? So Mr. Scott Zunker has been named our city planner now, and he'll be taking over the Lodgers Tax Board meetings. So,
Okay.
yeah, so he'll be starting, he'll be doing the meetings with you guys from here on out. I'll be here as well. I'll come in and you know, hang out and talk with you guys and try to get points across and have our discussions, and all that stuff, so we can make sure that we do the betterment for the city and for the board. But I just want to make sure that I let you guys know that for the record, that Scott is the new city planner and he will be running the.
Congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations. Look, I'm glad that you have the help. There's been
It's coming
times
together.
where,
It's coming together.
look, and again, I know it's tough for you guys to run it, so I'm not,
It's hard, and you gotta realize that the city of Las Vegas has 90% of these applications. It's all city events. They're all city-run events. We're all human, including the board. We're all human, and yes, if one got past us, then let's reflect on it and see how we can fix it.
how we can do it, how we can address it the best way. And we're not saying that in the past it was handled the best way. All we can do is going forward.
But just to reassure you, looking at 1802, that's the most recent revised ordinance for the way to spend a lodger's tax through at the city of Las Vegas. There doesn't say nothing about 501c3s. It doesn't say anything about for-profit or nonprofit. It's pretty self-explanatory to show you. It's pretty much cut and paste from the Justicia law. A lot of them, until you get to a certain section where the city of Las Vegas distinguishes itself from other cities and the way they're spending their lodger's tax.
I think some of the issues in the past, if we recollect, it did come up, and then at those times, look, whether it came from the top or so on, the board was pushed to reject something with that nature.
I agree. I kind of seem to remember something like that back then.
Oh, right, and so whether that was the right advice, and that's what you get for, so my assumption is that we made some checks with city attorney and so on and forward, and that's where it came from.
Well, our city manager's he's very involved, our city manager, and he wants to make sure he gets the right answers to everybody, so that's why he's having a meeting with me now in a bit, and myself and the finance director will be in there along with the city attorney for clarification on the proper spending for these lodgers tax funds.
Like, just for example, and just to say, because you're gonna have the meeting, it was addressing the mural, for somebody wanted to repaint the mural on the building downtown,
Calumet Girl.
the Calumet girl.
Yeah.
And we ran into issues there. I think the Lodgers Tax Board wanted to address that, but we ran into issues there where since the city didn't own the building or so on, we couldn't spend dollars. So that was one example where 501 came up, and not just 501, whether we could do, I think this is what we need to be clear. If it's not 501, as long as in any other ordinance, we're not saying that a for-profit, right? And whether I'm wrong on the difference or not, I would say that if it's a group that's doing something voluntarily, they're not making profit, but they haven't filed for a 501c, that's something different than somebody that is clearly for-profit and is documented as for-profit. So if we can clear that up,
Okay.
I know it doesn't say it on it, and I also wasn't asking for the person to be 501c, but it was brought up in the past. Another one was about a trolley. It was a group that came to us to advertise for the trolley, but the trolley was for profit, selling tickets and so on. And like you brought up, Scott, that's, if you're saying that it's not listed anywhere and something the board needs to do that, but again, it's not, we're an advisory board. We're going to be sending this up to council. But I do remember us rejecting that application for the trolley owners because they were a for-profit and not a 501c. So just bringing that's where, if I could, be as
It's an
clear.
interesting conversation, and yeah, that's something that we should sit down and talk about, definitely. Just to another point of clarification, the application that we have currently doesn't give us enough information, not just to us, but to the board. For instance, Ms. Johnson, the only way we could contact her was through email. And we were sending her emails, but our emails were winding up in her junk files. So she couldn't find the email that she was supposed to be here for the last meeting. So we're gonna go ahead and make some changes to the application if it's okay with the board. We're also looking to see if we can add back where they must present to you guys after their event is done.
Within
So
the
that you guys-
application,
So that you
they
guys
sign
don't,
it,
yeah,
yeah.
so that you guys don't have to be making a motion every time. We're gonna try to add that back in there. We're also gonna start, instead of soliciting through newspapers and through websites, we're gonna put out RFPs requesting people to come in with that. So we're gonna go out as far as Albuquerque to see if we could get people to come and put events on over here, just to try to take off some of the load of the events that the city does and put some of the weight on some of these private 501c3s or whatever private events that want to come into the city of Las Vegas.
Certainly, and if we could do it in enough time, because even on this one, because of timing for various reasons, we've done it on the seat of our pants, right? The normal timing, what we wanted to do was, instead of, what we did was take in all the packets and then vote on them immediately, instead of reviewing the packets and then voting them on the next meeting, but we had a tight window. But normally, we don't have a discussion on it, so we have the time to ask these questions, so then it's ready for approval on the next meeting. If it gets tight, then we need staff to, if there's components in there, applications in there that are clearly will not work, you can notify us during the meeting, but you could say that these were omitted for these reasons, so that we're not dealing with that during the meeting. You guys know at that level that these applications should be omitted or not. So that's what we could do to clarify it. And I think we did the right thing for the last time, but she wasn't here to present, so we weren't gonna get clarification, so we were okay to table it. But if you're having some of these issues and we change the application, if you're able to do that before it even approaches that matter, that cleans it up for us to address the ones that have applied and done it correctly.
Sure.
Elmer.
So, Mr. Marquez, if you determine that it's best to utilize the RFP process,
which would be my recommendation. Then in the RFP process, the applicants are required to provide their taxpayer identification number, whether it be 501c3 or taxpayer identification. That would probably help you with clarification in terms of what kind of a business it is or who's applying. So it actually helps you filter right up front.
Oh, wonderful.
So I think the RFP process would be better, and once you get all these groups to start applying, you can simplify the RFP. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you do it along with a training, with a pre-proposal conference. That actually puts you in better standing, not only with the applicants, but also with the finance department when it comes to audits and things like that. So
Okay.
I would recommend that we use the RFP process, because it provides all that information up front.
Up front, yeah. And that helps, right? Because right now we're approving and then you guys are dealing with contracts after the fact. And you may find something wrong, and I believe that was for one of the cases in the past, where when we got to contracts, that was some of the trouble. But I think, yeah, that's if we could do that up front, that's probably a better idea.
Mr. Chair, I guess, in the last number of years that I've looked up the audit findings that the cities had, I don't think I recall audit finding coming from lodger's tax issue. So in my mind, for however it landed up being, it wasn't tagged or reviewed or became an issue. So that's number one. Number two.
That's because we're doing a good job, but I hope.
Well, I don't know, that's up to the auditors. They're looking at so many pieces of paper and they review stuff and find out if it's in the parameters or not. I guess the part that really concerns me above and beyond all of this is the fact that for the last couple of years, Lodgers Tax Board has not approved a lot of events. And that's, to me, is more serious than anything else that I've seen here. And it's prior to you getting here, Lucas, and all of you guys getting here. So, what it boils down to is there were events that were just paid for without consideration of lodgers tax, that were moved up to somehow the city council, or maybe not even the city council, and it got done. To me, those are the big red flags. And I would hope that moving forward, whatever event it is, that the city does it or doesn't do it, or an organization does it or isn't a part of the city, that it come through lodgers tax, and that it go to the city council like it's supposed to. The ones that haven't are the ones that bother me, because that's a violation. That's easy to find. And those are easy to track, because people got paid, and those things never went through this board, and they never went to city council for approval.
That's what I was gonna ask for clarification. So you're addressing there has been approvals that.
Well, they happen without approvals, that's what I'm saying.
Got it, yeah.
That's what I'm concerned
And
about.
just another clarification, and again, I was looking through the rules, and then we were going over the budget and we were finishing it. The rules do state that when a budget is approved, that doctor's tax needs to be notified, within 10 days. I did read that, I just wanted to address that while we had the time. But,
Mr. Chair,
as long as-
before Lucas goes, I have a couple of questions with 7505, because
Yes,
you
sir.
worked on that
Yeah,
contract.
and then let's officially move forward to that. I mean, look, we're stuck into it, so let's.
Because I know that
address
Lucas is
505.
getting ready to.
Yeah, I got like a few minutes and I gotta take that street.
So if you don't mind,
Let's
Mr.
move
Chair,
on to-
can I ask a few questions of Lucas?
Yes, sir.
Lucas, I know that when we started this year, we already had a contract prior to you getting in here for the 185. I thought the number was also for this past year. And now we're looking at getting ready to do the next year. Is that July 1?
It was supposed to be July 1, yes, sir.
Okay, so we're a little behind here on this one. Now, and I think you've seen in the last couple of meetings that we've had someone from Sunny 505, talking to us about the logo and that whole process that they went through, which I thought was special interest, flawed completely. It was a mess. But how much, and I'm not asking for exact dollars. I already asked Scott earlier today if he could get me the numbers for last year's payments. We didn't pay Sunny 505 185 for last year, did we?
I don't believe it went all to the 185, sir. I believe it was somewhere between the areas of 120 and 140, I'll say between there.
And were you comfortable with those expenditures? Did they do that work?
Well, but at the end, when I got there, they did work for me. I wasn't here for the previous, so I really can't answer the entirety.
The whole
But
year?
for what I have and what I've learned when I went through my leadership training programs and talking with other cities on how they deal with this particular company, they've had great experiences with them, but it's what you get asked for them to do that shows you what they can do. So if you're gonna pay them that much money and it's in a contract, you gotta get the more bang for your buck. And that's what they were telling me how to do it, and they showed me how to do it. And now dealing with Dita, it's simple to deal with her now. She's getting things done. For example, the fall fiestas, we needed a little video put together, a 60-second video or 30-second video, I think it was, right, Scott? We put it out on our Facebook page that they have for Visit Las Vegas, and we had over 56,000 views, and we had over 287 shares. So it was a really good success, and it's what we asked them to do and how we have them push it that's gonna make the spending the money not feel so stingy.
You're right, when we spoke to her on the last meeting, the sticking point seemed to be the branding, because we went over each deliverable in last year's contract, right? The first one is branding, then the second one is visitor's guide, then it was story writing and the website, and it looks like we executed on all of them, but we were stuck on branding, just to be clarified.
I think the ones that I would look at would be branding, and I believe there's something with television that's in there for 45,000. I think that's something that we could probably look at as well. I mean, again, I can only tell you guys what I see. I can't make the recommendation. It's up to the board to make the recommendations, but our lodgers tax board has already awarded us $36,000 to do a television advertisement. We did that for the fall fiesta, and we were very successful. We reached over 451,000 viewers that we reached with those commercials. So we were successful with the leadership that you guys have given us and the guidance that you guys have given us, and allowing us to use that money to market our town and our events. I think we're getting a lot of successes through our board alone, and then we would having to pay $45,000 for $8,000 of a commercial space is what we paid. We would have paid $8,000 for a commercial space with them, plus
We got a lot of value
maybe
there.
like 15,000 that we would have wound up
So
spending with
I
them.
guess
is
my
what I'm saying.
question, Mr. Chair, I guess Lucas is, if we approve something like this today, and you and Scott decide we're not gonna do number 3, number 4, whatever, you guys will make that call, right? Because we're not ready to do it, or we're not prepared to do that. But
I mean,
in other
we-
words, they're not just gonna bill us just because we didn't do it either, right?
Yes,
You
they-
guys
they-
will be
they
able
won't
to
bill us.
make the call, right?
Yes, we can make the call. We can make that call.
It looks like they've made an adjustment, and again, I think some of the directive was some of it under the purview of council as well, but if we're able to clarify, look, if we're bogged down on the branding portion of it, let's move on to what we can execute on and put on the deliverables, and then from this updated, August 2024, it looks like only 7,000 is really going towards the ongoing effort for branding. So I think they've made an adjustment there where we could address the other items that aren't being addressed or used to be addressed. So it looks like rack card, the media relations. I'm just kind of reading the website refresh for ongoing. The video shoot is in here, and that looks like a big pocket of it that we've done. But these items going forward look like what our plan going forward for next year, correct?
Yeah, because a lot of them are gonna be continuous work. There is like the 30-second and 60-second video that we wanna make sure we keep on there because we gotta get video together now for our balloon fiesta that we run in a loop.
Yeah.
So we definitely need that. We're trying to see if we could run that same video at the airports as well, so we could try to get
Awesome,
some more
yeah.
people from that area to come visit us as well.
So the only thing I would ask for that would be beneficial going forward is that, okay, here's the budget. What percentage of it was overhead and what percentage was actually ad buys, ad costs? And then we could see, look, the majority of this money was actual ad eyeballs to ads that are out there, and it wasn't just consumed by the entity that we're hiring. Ideally, for us, and I think it should be part of our RFPs going forward, is that, look, the lodger's tax is here. Yes, there's ambiguity for the smaller portion of what lodger's tax, but the majority is clear that it's supposed to be clearly marketing and tourism and a portion of. So we want to do that for our contract here too. At least get the number, so we know that, hey, this is what we spent on this portion. This is the amount that we spend on actual advertising, and because you get matching funds and so on going forward. But and just what you said earlier, man, the number of hits, the number of things. So continuously on each meeting, having 505 report back or reporting to you now, Scott, and you giving us the numbers every meeting, we know that this is working. And then if it's not, then we get to make adjustments come contract time again. But that's, to me, ideally how it smoothly work.
Are we still getting a printout of the analytics of the hits that we get from whatever we're putting out?
So I spoke with, I'm sorry, yes, so I spoke with Placer, that's the analytics program that we have. I had put a geonetting around it. It'll take a couple of weeks for us to be able to see what the hits were that we had for this, let's say, the fall fiesta. But once those numbers are here, I could, if we don't have a meeting, I could email them to you guys so you guys see what we got as far as
Well, it'd be
numbers.
nice to put them also in our packets, so it shows which events that hits we got, because that definitely gives us a clear indication, yes, we are putting the money where it's being best used, you know.
Okay.
If it was in your social media, they found it on a commercial on TV or a radio, but it's gonna give us that information, you know.
And I
But I
thought,
wanna see each of these events, how they're,
I thought you guys would be really happy with those numbers from the Facebook page. 56,000 views is a really good amount.
And it's not even just hearing the numbers, it's hearing that feedback and the consistent. If we could put, if it's not already, I mean, I'm trying to read through the contract.
And I gotta say that this wasn't your ordinary fiesta event. It was out of the blue. I mean, we got it put together. I got some good advice on the date to put it on. I think it was a good date to put on that fiesta. And
do.
I know we went against a couple of other towns, which kind of feel bad for our neighbors, Wagon Mountain and stuff like that, because I'm sure we took a lot away from them. But Las Vegas deserved it. The citizens deserved it. They suffered through a big flood, and the fiestas were canceled, and we needed to have something to go ahead and tell them, hey, we're still thinking about you.
For such short time, fair enough, I was surprised by the response.
It was a good turnout.
It was,
I gotta say.
it was, I was
I'm just trying to
surprised by
get you guys accurate numbers, and once I get those accurate numbers, I'm gonna present to council, and I'll send you guys some numbers as well, so you guys know what went on. I'm trying to get expenditures as well, so I could tell you guys what we spent on there exactly, so that you guys feel comfortable on how the money was spent, so that you guys can, maybe at the next meeting, we could go ahead and discuss it, if you guys see any improvement that we could have done, or if you think we could have spent money a little bit more of this area or that area. But, I'm sorry to cut it short, but I do got this 3:30. I want to leave you in Scott's hands. So, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for everything you guys do for the city of Las Vegas. Lodgers tax is very, very much a part of us. And while I'm here, I'll never go beyond you guys or over you guys without talking to you guys before I do anything. I want to bring everything in front of you guys. Appreciate all of you guys for what you guys do. One thing that we should always ask, if it's okay that I say this, is when they are gonna make T-shirts or posters, I really, really recommend that says Las Vegas Lodgers tax on there constantly. Anything that we're doing needs to make sure that, because you guys are the ones that are giving us that money to make sure that they have the chance to advertise their event. So I think it must say that City of Las Vegas Lodgers tax, but don't put the word board in there because it turns it political after that.
The other thing is, when I went to that event, that we did in replace for our 4th of July event, it said City of Las Vegas, but nowhere did I see
Lodgers tax.
lodgers tax. And I asked Chuck Grego about it, and he said, we're supposed to order a banner, and I didn't know that. No, okay.
That's not factual.
I didn't think,
We are in the midst of ordering you guys a banner to make sure that you guys are placed, and that one would have been perfect to have you guys on top of the stage, to have the big Lodgers.
it's not just a banner, but you know where they do the shadow in the back, whatever you guys do with the city of Las Vegas, and if it's lodgers tax money, you just put down sponsored by Lodgers, City of Las Vegas Lodgers tax.
And commercials
Because you hit both of them. You hit the city and you hit the lodgers tax.
and the commercials that we do put on KNMX, and even the KFUN, they always say lodgers tax on there, so it should be known that's coming from the lodgers tax.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Oh, and posters. Every poster that puts out should be sponsored by.
So one of the things that, just to bring you up to date, that I did with DITA with Sunny 505, we've got coming in, at the end of this month, we have the British Car Club coming in, and they're gonna be doing some different things. So I told them, make sure that's out there. Make sure that the public knows it's not sponsored by the city, it's not sponsored by you guys, but it's an event that's happening. So they're supposed to be working on something for that. And then I asked them that when we get to around the weekend of December 6th and 7th, to package a deal. We have the historic home tour on the 6th, the light parade's on the 7th, and we'll have the Luces and Del Rio lights going on. Put it all together. Tell people to come here for the weekend and enjoy all of our Christmas festivities. So they're working on stuff like that.
Package versus the
And trying
individual.
to say, not just an individual deal, trying to put them out there where come on the 6th and, do the home tour and stay for the light parade and stay for the lights on the river. So I'm trying to get them to start thinking.
And it'd be the
putting things
most
together.
effective for them. Look, we want these events advertised and advertised to have the greater impact, to have the most reach, to
Exactly.
have the to even, that's that's the idea, and that's what we want to make sure we do, even for Lucas, for some of the things we did or doing for 505 and so on. There was certain things that weren't going to be able to be done if it was just on our own. If we can gather some of these events and then even hand some of it to 505, you're promoting all of these events at
Exactly.
once, and you might turn it into one big entity,
Right.
a week of going forward.
We're working with them to do that with Facebook, but also with New Mexico True. So we're trying to get it the most bang for our buck, but that's what I said, I'm trying to, whenever I can find out about events, even if they're not, city-run or not sponsored by you guys or the city, we still need to promote it. It's gotta get out.
The promotion of is
So,
that's what.
yeah, let us know if you hear of things also, so.
So for October, well, what you just mentioned about the Christmas holiday, there's gonna be like 3 different things happening that whole weekend. Will that be advertised also at the Balloon Fiesta, to let people know that, it's coming up?
We probably
Because
need
you're gonna
to.
have all those eyes there, those
Yeah.
people there. A lot of them have family here, so they're thinking, okay, I can go visit the grandkids, or I could take the kids and do something with them. And it's gonna keep me there for 3 days.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good idea, so.
A rack card with all that, just hand it out.
she listed it as.
What we were trying to do was work with the chamber to get their people to offer discounts during the Balloon Fiesta, only during the Balloon Fiesta. We were trying to get that group up here.
November 2nd.
And so we asked them to contact them and ask them if they want to give a 10% discount or a 15. And, you know, all people have to do is bring this card. And so we could advertise the Christmas stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll have to check with the chamber and see where they're at with that.
Or a voucher that they can redeem back to the city.
Yeah.
You know, there's gotta be a way to track all this
You
stuff.
put it on a QR code.
So we talked about that, yeah, for the last time, the QR
Yeah.
code for, I mean, look, for the Balloon Fiesta, I mean, there's an opportunity there, but it's also an opportunity to keep, I mean, look, to get an account of what's working right, but we get that QR code and you're probably gonna find people from around the country, but using the QR code, we could see which portion of those guys made it into an event here. And you're right, we wanna be promoting us during that time period because the families can't afford the whole week there.
No.
So they're gonna do a weekend or even less if they can't afford it, they're gonna try to go midweek because the weekends are really expensive. And so in the meantime, we should be getting and so that means us at the booth are also saying, well, okay, what days are you staying here? If you're here to do that, go visit Las Vegas and so on, and you're hoping that shifts into when they come to the Fiesta again, or some of these guys that they're changing the beer, we're like, no, we're gonna do this day or this weekend or this 2 days at Balloon Fiesta, but then we're gonna go to this event in Las Vegas. But our best opportunity is our booth right there to provide this information. Whatever we could promote there for any of our events, that's the time to do it and go nuts with QR codes to give us some numbers and let's see what happens. I don't think there's gonna be any.
You can put a lot of
period.
information on there,
Mhm.
and then the QR code will take you to different links that you can go to.
If we can move, I know it's short timing, but if Sunny 505 can, because we had that discussion before too. They're running the website. If those QR codes hit the Visit Las Vegas website, we've got numbers right there. They fill out a form. They get there's something attached to that for doing that for the incentive of. But that goes a long way for our events in town for it. So that's an opportunity. Hopefully we have enough time to still execute and let's see what we can do. They may already have stuff
I'm hoping
pre-built.
so. Chuck, I think, has been working on everything for the Balloon Fiesta, so I've not been involved with that.
Go ahead.
So how does Sunny 505 invoice the city?
I have not seen any of the invoices, so, you know, we had, Matt and Georgina both have asked that question, so I've sent that to, finance, asking them if they can give us numbers as well as the Fiesta
So the
numbers.
departments community development. you
It
and
should be
Lucas would-
okay through Lucas, but like I said, I just have not seen any of the invoices, so I don't exactly know how it's done.
Because I know he said that it was run in another way, but right now, if you're being charged with, your department is being charged with managing this contract, and the invoices should come through your department, and you
Right.
get clarification, are they doing
guys
what
check them
needs to
off,
be
yeah.
done?
Yeah.
And,
Once that comes into play. I'm juggling 2 jobs right now.
Yeah.
A couple of jobs.
okay, so that's something, just as long as invoicing comes to you all, so that it doesn't go somewhere else, and
Right,
then you're
no, it
responsible.
should come through, it should come through community development, so.
The other part is, I know, I've got two things. One, just an observation. When looking at the city, the logo that was proposed, when I saw it, it reminded me of Las Vegas, Nevada. Just an observation from my perspective.
Where did you see that at? On the,
When they sent us some material, we got some
Yeah,
material on
they were able, on one, when they made one presentation right before they were sending it to the board, sending it to council. It wasn't, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but she presented it to us. That's when Oliver was still on the board and made an interesting comment, I believe Matt did too. But yeah, they did present what they were gonna present to council.
because I don't remember
The
seeing
logo
that.
looks like something that I would see when I was driving up today. It's just an observation. Oh, now I lost my train.
Well, the
of-
slogan
sorry,
was a
go
joke too.
Huh?
The slogan was a joke.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not even-
It was,
Well, it's bienvenidos, and I'm saying, I've never heard anybody say that to me in this town ever.
They said it in Las Vegas, Nevada, though I looked it up. But,
Finally, is the 185 the staff recommendation, or?
I don't believe so. I think we were kind of wanting to hear what you had to say,
What we
because
had to
my
say.
opinion is,
I don't agree with the 45,000 for television, because we had KRQE design that ad and do it, and I thought the ad was good. So if we're, they've got supposedly the largest reach, and if we're using them and they'll design the ad,
So, and that's what the clarification we want for overhead versus ad buy. So this 45,000 is not an ad buy?
I don't know.
Okay, so
We,
if we can
we
get that
did
clarification.
the ad buy on our own.
Yeah,
We didn't go
so,
through them for that ad buy.
You all need a recommendation from us.
Today, right?
no, I think it's under discussion
Yeah,
as of
it's-
now.
Basically, yeah, what, you know,
That's a
I mean,
discussion item.
recommendations, but I personally don't think we need a new tour rack card. I think we just need to print more of those historic, the Santa Fe Trail, whatever, the guide that talks a little bit about the historic buildings.
you still have that?
We're out of them right now. I don't know, we had talked to Sunny 505, and we thought they had done them, but they had not. And they were wanting to go print more of those trifolds, which, the trifolds are nice, but we've got a whole stack of them upstairs.
So the Santa Fe Trail ones were, that was an interesting evolution. And
That's what we need more of, because people come in and see it, and I can tell you, you know, my desk sits up front right now in the lobby, and so I see all the visitors come in, and when people ask about it, and I tell them, well, here's the QR code over here to do it, it's usually a lot older crowd, and they just kind of look at you and go, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I typically don't know everything about those, but I try to help them, you know, scan it in on your phone, but they just really don't want to do that. They'd rather,
It's something
they're
to,
like me, they're old fashioned.
So is that the argument for having printed items?
Well, I think we need that printed, and I don't know if the city printed it, the chamber printed it, or who printed it,
Okay.
but it's something we need to work on.
But from what you're seeing as far as,
I don't think they need to design a new one.
right, okay, and that's something, and again, it's like we mentioned, if we don't direct them, then they could wag us, right? So if you see something that's not, and whenever I see print and so on, I always get the pushback, because I am the QR guide, or I
Right.
want to see it on my phone, and I want to carry on papers, but then I also have that kind of argument of having some print, but if this is not effective, print or no print, then we don't want to do it. The hard part about print, probably the good portion of that 15,000 is the cost. I'm hoping, because paper is expensive in today's world, and as far as shooting around
It's the slick,
PDFs, that's,
multicolored,
yeah.
it's expensive.
So
Could you have both on that card, on the rack card? Could we have a QR code on the rack card too?
Yeah, I don't
For
see-
those that, because it's,
Well, they actually
We have a poster in the visitor center where they can go over and click on that QR code.
but not when you print the new.
The new book, put a QR, yeah, I don't see why they couldn't add that, yeah.
Yeah, my husband would probably want the hard print part, but I would just take a snapshot of the QR code and just read it down the road later on and look at the different links. That's what I do when I go to visit other cities.
Okay.
So we I think as far as discussion wise, we're in agreement that we can if we get the QR code on there, but we kind of reduce the. Are we saying QR code on the one that on the item that we want printed more of, or are we saying a new rack card with a QR code on it?
I think we were talking about if we reprint that Santa Fe Trails, the historic locations, just go ahead and put the QR code on
Yep,
it.
and add that on there on the
should not be a
reprint.
problem.
Okay,
And we can
but we're not clear that 505 did it. It was somebody else.
I don't think they did it because when I sent a message to them, they started talking about the trifold card, and I'm like, that's not a trifold
Okay.
card.
you might need to, Scott, look at that Santa Fe Trails deal, and might have to just get someone to give you a quote to
To
reproduce it.
reprint it, yeah.
Because it belongs to us, right? As far as I know.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I'm almost sure it does. So I just say, you know, outside of this, I just see a different route altogether.
The way it originated was the city funded, many years ago, with CLG grant, funded walking tour brochures for each of the historic districts. So there were 6 or 7 walking tour brochures. We then, when Santa Fe Trail was a big thing, and there was a Santa Fe Trail Interpretive Center, we then incorporated Santa Fe Trail and combined all the walking tours into that one walking tour brochure.
I think I remember that.
And so that's
smart
always
idea.
been the cities. The CCHP was very closely involved, but only in terms of helping to develop it. We may have to help develop it, but the ownership has always been the city.
Bringing up, Elmer had a good point earlier on how they're billing. I know on some of the issues in the past, when we dealt with a company on how they build, I think it's better for us that everything that we do is tied closer to deliverables. I know there's ongoing work, but when you start saying hours for this and hours for that, and we're building that accordingly, and then we might not have the deliverable we want at the end. So we'd rather hear a report on, hey, what did you execute on? What got done? What between this and so on? So that way we're not stuck in a quagmire. Because let's say like public relations for 12,000. And it says including disseminating monthly views, releases, and pitching regional and national media to write stories on Las Vegas. So if they're just giving us hours and they're saying they're doing this, but we don't have a way to convey that it's being done, then that's a problem. We should be paying them for results in my mind.
Right.
So there better be stories written if we've been putting out our, checks for those being done. It'd be even worse if they didn't specify which portions they're executing on. So I'm glad you had brought that up, because we did run into those issues where this prior company was just billing hours without saying what was being executed on. So to save us, the city, this round is if we can be concise on what exactly they're billing for, and then we could check off what's being delivered. Georgina, you had?
Yeah, we have a 100-year anniversary coming up with Route 66. What is does the city have any plans because of the extension of Grand Avenue?
Not that I'm
And-
aware of. I haven't heard anything.
Okay,
It doesn't mean there's not, but I have not heard.
because I know the statewide, they're doing something, because I've been seeing it all over the place. I just didn't, I know it's off subject, but
That crept up too.
But it's
just-
relevant.
It is very relevant. It's a 100-year, and what's the next biggest town that they came into, New Mexico, was Las Vegas. And then they took off, but they came here first, and they ate here first, and I'd like to see about, I don't know, if you hear of anybody, I'll be willing to
Well,
work
maybe you
with
can
them.
check on that.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a contact that we'd have at the, and like Abel was saying, and some of it we can take from other municipalities, but I guess having the contacts in region to say at the state level, what the state is doing, maybe if we have a New Mexico True contact, and ask them, hey, is the state doing anything on a state level, or what are the other municipalities under New Mexico True doing for Route 66? Can we jump in? It's never too late on if there is some more promotion marketing going on for it. What can we do?
And could it be added to the rack card?
Possibly. Yeah,
Because it's a big thing, people are driving everywhere.
What's the date?
It's next year,
Okay,
and
so
it's gonna,
coming fast.
it's 100 years, So it's.
So we still have
I don't know who's gonna
time,
handle it.
but it's still, but then again, it's right around the corner.
Well, they might be doing it for other cities too already, so that might be
We
incorporated.
can ask.
Mr. Chair, I just go back to the city logo, tagline, color plat and all that stuff.
I want to throw it away.
I do
Just take
too.
it out of the contract.
Because I don't know if we made a decision, we wanna go a different route, we already have a
I
logo.
would recommend, yeah, if they have, I think they did it lower. If we were a recommendation, we could even eliminate it. If that's,
That's
I just
where
don't
I'm
want it
coming
to bog down the rest of what we need to do.
I like what we have.
It's a black branding and logos are a black hole of,
Well, it says here that they're
process.
gonna provide a branding guide, well, we don't wanna go that route right now.
Again,
and that's something that we can directly focus in other areas, yeah.
There's your Route 66 money, the seed money.
yes. I mean, the city could do something.
And that should be the focus, and that's my fear too, when broadening got brought up again and again, is that my fear was we were gonna get bogged down in this process, and then in that process, we forget to market the town and what we needed to do.
So did we give you some good direction, Scott? Is my recommendation, and others work? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
I think we can, I would leave the line item, but not that much money, in case there's some things in terms of,
They said something about modifying the reproduction
So
of the
it-
logo or something.
Which
So
specific
come up with whatever you think,
about the logo,
but
keeping the.
other than that, working on it.
As I recall, and I don't see that any longer, the letters were stressed. The letters were stressed in the early design of the logos in terms of, looked like they, not to use the word brand, looked like it was on wood, where not all, it wasn't just a solid line, it was like
Right.
broken up. And that kind of gives you a Western feel, because that's what we are, we're the West, and people come to the West. So that's, if that kind of work can be done, that'd be fine for a couple $1,000s. But I don't see a whole redesign, and I agree with that. Or a new tagline, we already have a tagline.
So you're talking about the 7,000?
Yeah.
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 They can keep the line item in case they come up with some recommendation that says, hey, we're gonna do this with you and leave it, put a couple of $1,000s in it so that they can do that.
And yeah, and us reducing it, is it making it clear to them that we don't have interest for it, and I think we're better for it. They could focus on the things we need to focus. And if they need something, a brand to go forward with, Mexico True is there. Ultimately, that's the backdrop. And everything we've recommended in the past is that we want it to flow with New Mexico True. I mean, that's a free co-op to be part of. We're already benefiting it from all the matching grants. So if we just go the safe route, website, everything, and it's the backdrop is New Mexico True, because we're not ready for this branding situation, then so be it. We're still gonna use the money efficiently in other areas.
And all I'm saying is leaving some money available, color palette or something like that.
Something like
If
that.
we wanna come back with some
So
recommendation.
do we want to leave an amount in there?
I'm saying $2,000 for that.
I agree. I like that. That's what I put down in my notes. That's what I was thinking.
So we're down to 120.
And then and we.
So on the 45, sorry, I didn't want to
Go, no, you go for it.
Did we full veto the 45? I just wanted clarification. If it's being used to actually put it on there, right? Because what it sounds like is we already made a video.
We made one for the Fiesta.
Right. And so this would be repeating it and displaying it, or we don't know? I don't know. So that's what we need
It
clarification
looks like
on.
advertising, looks like it's a buy.
So if it's an ad buy, that's something we need to consider. So that way they
Well-
could provide us with numbers and so on. Because if it's
They
enough.
gotta say it. They gotta say.
Yeah.
Ad buy.
And they may be simplifying it in here, but if you get clarification from there, so we're not repeating a process or so on.
But they already have KRQE, so we're fine, right? We can go our own route.
We can go our own route.
And they produce the commercial too, right?
They produce the commercial.
With part of the package.
So I don't know what other
TV ads would we run?
Yeah.
And so, ask them. That's what we need clarification. I don't want to be down, but if it ends up being, oh, they have access to placement, and we're getting bang for the buck, say during Balloon Fiesta, something like that. Now, if it's an outlier and it's not doing much for us, then it's something we could veto outright. My fear is, because I really, if anything is actually getting to the number of eyeballs and they could prove it and give us that, then I could see we're doing our job, and the majority of it's using it to place it, not to create it itself. Then that's something we definitely need to look at. If they're not able to communicate that, where it's saying, well, we're going to spend about 30 grand making it, and then 15 grand to have like a few eyeballs. That's what I'm talking about. We don't want that scenario. Right. But if they're using something matching, or they're ad buying power on their end, and it's a video that can get out there, then we could say, look, can we reuse, or we have the rights? Do we have the rights to this other video? How about we just, if we don't need a duplicate video or additional thing, can we use the ad buy there and show the same video? But that's a discussion we need to have before before we strike it down. So I can't give her, I don't know if we could give a recognition either way, because we don't know what it is.
Right, right. So what about this, the one that I kind of wondered about was the quarterly seasonal electronic newsletter?
I
You
don't
know what it is?
I don't know
I
what
don't know
it
who
is.
uses that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
You know, that's more a chamber thing for its members maybe, or.
that's what I would
I
think.
have no idea what that would mean.
Well, originally I thought it was Sunny that was gonna be, I know you're here, but I thought it was, that was gonna, because when you had it as the attachment, that Sunny would be here to kind of talk over it. But it sounds like another question, again, in the last timer period, having reports of what they're doing, what the impact is probably gonna be big. So they probably need to tell us, okay, what's this chain letter gonna do? How much eyeballs is it gonna get, and what's the impact to our
What's the
bottom line? Yeah.
Who's it going to?
What would be the focus of it?
Yeah.
The only time the city used a newsletter that I recall was when we had the CCHP would put in a quarterly newspaper in terms of historic preservation and what was going on. That was a very focused project with regards to that. General quarterly newsletter on the city, I mean, there's so many things happening that you're gonna end up with a pretty large document.
But it's the same scenario, right? We're paying them to make this continuously, but we're not sure whether that's having an impact
You
on,
got one? Have you ever
right.
received one?
have you received or so on, and where it's placed,
Was
so.
this on, how many of these things were actually on last year's?
I think all of them.
And what did they actually do? Because then we can compare it with, okay, well, we never saw a quarterly thing, and that's $6,000. We could actually use $6,000 for Route 66.
Well, I had, on the last meeting, I had some of the same questions, because that's when we went point for point on executables. I was surprised to hear some of the things were done, because I hadn't seen them myself on what they said was accomplished. I was like, I don't know if I've seen that. But at that point, I was taking your word, and so I think we're moving forward, and they finally came and talked to us as being addressed by law, just like, but now we probably still need that report of what we've done and what the numbers, just like how, we had the report on the number of hits and so on and how that went, but probably the entire thing of what we've already done, so we can even address it. If we had a newsletter last year?
No idea.
So yeah,
So-
so we probably need to clarify from them, all right, probably an email sent to them like, look, can you report back to us on what's been executed?
I want to see the
I
I
graphics.
think once we can maybe get something from finance to see what we actually paid for.
Yeah.
we'll know, okay,
And
And
I
my
If
hope,
pay-
my
if
hope
we
is
paid
that
for
we
these,
just didn't
then
pay
we
for
need to know.
hours,
Yeah.
hours towards something and that we paid for execution of. Like I said, and so if it said, hey, we paid for a newsletter, then, hey, we need a report saying, for Vive like, hey, how did we do with this letter? We don't know whether we want to continue on with it or not.
And can we see it?
Right.
Can we see it? What's the circulation? And what's the feedback?
It should have been attached to the invoice.
Yeah, it should be.
Purchase order? So if there was a newsletter, a quarterly that went out,
So can I back up a little on that design, the 15,000 on the rack cards?
I think what,
I think we
I would
vetoed it.
suggest is we use it to print more of the,
Anything else of the Santa Fe Trail, if it belongs to them.
right.
But if they have buying power or printing power, 505 that they could use, they could certainly be part of the thing. If it's cheaper than anybody else we can use.
right,
I would put a little bit more money in that. Because it's gonna need, Matt brought this up, that brochure, that walking tour brochure is gonna need to be revised for sure, because there's some buildings that came down that should not be on that, probably came down, that shouldn't be on that brochure.
For one, then it could use some re-editing or write-up.
On the actual Santa Fe Trail.
so are we gonna want them to do that?
They can do that, or they can bring a historic preservation consultant if they need it.
Which would be the local one, because they're the ones that know
So
which,
Get Lawrence and
Yeah.
Loretta.
to
Lawrence,
provide it.
because the Opera House is gone. I mean, there's like 3 buildings I know for sure are gone.
And they would have been
They're
on
gone.
the sure. That's the last thing we want to do is have a tourist walk up to a space.
To a space.
Yeah, it's a vacant lot now, yeah. But
Okay.
definitely bring in CCHP for that, guidance.
And then I guess clarification on, I'm a big stickler for destroying overhead. I'm not a believer in it. I want them to do their job and have it be percentage, but it shouldn't be we're hiring a company just to hire him and we're spending all our money on that. To me, our best use is making sure the most amount of the money that we're showing out to this company is actual ad purchases and buys that go out, and then on top of that, those ads be the most effective that they can be. So that said, New Mexico True account management for $15,000, have they told you what's involved in that? Is like a year-round management of,
That's my understanding.
cause in the past it wasn't handled in-house. It was, but, so I think there could be in between. I do agree that, look, some of this stuff, it's hard to, it's a staff level, it's a lot, especially you have multiple caps and you're trying to figure out which market to attach and which so on, but without knowing their scope of work and what they're asking for here, that's a big fat question mark of, are we just giving them $15,000 and they've took one day or a couple of hours out of their life and it's set for the next year,
Yeah.
but they've charged us $15K. Those are some of my concerns during that. And so I think it's fair for us to question, as far as, when I see managing of, those are areas where, our best interest is in our city, in our town, what we can do with those contracts. Their best interest is gonna be which areas can we have some profit in there, and we kind of want it to be closer to our end. For it. So that's another question up there is like, okay, what exactly are we managing for that 15K?
What about that other 15 for social media management and tourism and social media accounts?
Right, so those are additional management. The only thing that, and we've in the prior marketing company that we've had in the before, but again, the only thing that they're gonna be able to fire back is how many hits, how many impressions, how did it go through? So they need to at least provide us those metrics. But I'm willing to say that they'll probably put X amount of hours, they'll say that they had to monitor these sites and so on, but again.
And they do, they are constantly
Yeah.
posting stuff on the Facebook.
Right.
And so that's where I go in, and I, when I have time, I go in and look and I go, wait a minute, we have a British car club coming into town, there's nothing about them.
They posted
Take
it.
one of these others out and get this in, and then.
So they're doing things that you would be, because you're doing other things, and there's nobody on it, they're able to handle it for us. So the best thing we can do is they're not abusing it, they're not putting hundreds of hours and they just did a single post, so on, so that we
Doing a
can.
lot of posts on Facebook.
Right, and so that's one more thing, if they can report to us the numbers and hits, and then versus the hours they spent doing it, then we could figure out whether these monies that they're asking for is justified or not.
I know that,
Sorry, Elmer.
we utilized it when I was with FEMA. Chuck develops a event list for every 2 or 3 months, doesn't he?
Maybe. I don't see it if he does, and I've asked him to send me all the events that he knows about so that I can be,
I know that last year when I was working for FEMA, we were doing community events and he provided us that list and we were able to select from that list and determine where we could go and set up booths and stuff. So
He was the chief
if
of-
he's still doing that, he could provide that to 505
right.
and because he needs to keep on top of the car clubs and the car shows and whatever else is going on now we have Dia de los Muertos and all this stuff and keep that and then just shoot that out to Sunny 505 and have them put that in there. So
Exactly. Yep.
But since so many of them are, look, so many events and all that we approved last time too are, city held and coordinated by Chuck, just make sure for the future events that we have Chuck in. It looks like you're heading Logitech, but since he's event coordinator for the meetings for before, I mean, that's when it works well. We can't have one without the other, the Logitech coordinator without the event coordinator. So let's on the future meetings make sure that he's here for Lodgers Tax. I don't think we can untangle it. Almost its entire budget for the events is now tied to Lodgers Tax. So he's gotta be with us, so then when we have these questions, we can better coordinate, going forward. I think it'll benefit us, all.
Because the other thing is the public event permit goes through him also, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's, he has knowledge of that, he can shoot that off to 505 or let's develop a mechanism for communication so that 505 can put it on the website.
Yeah, there's about 12 events that the city is doing. I just went through it all. That's
And I
quite a
hope
lot.
most of them are already on the city's event website.
Okay,
So we'll have to go through. I even think the Dia de los Muertos was already on there.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
okay.
All right, I think we've got a lot of questions in there. I don't think it's enough to, I think we're gonna need some of these questions answered before we get to a stage of recommendation
Okay.
going forward. So there's a lot of questions there that they need to account for. I would say they've gotta, and did she ever send some, because we did make that request on the last meeting when she was in, if she could send everything that they're doing, everything new that they're doing. Was she able to send
I
us?
was thinking she did, and I thought I forwarded it to all of your emails. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay, has the board received anything as far as what 505 is doing?
I could have, but it could have been Labor Day weekend.
It probably
Week.
was, because that meeting was, August 27th?
Yeah, it's
and
probably,
She
it's
may
probably
have sent it
buried
the
in
next
mine.
day, and then I forwarded it out, so.
If you find
But I'll
it, just send it
double check.
again. That
Just
way.
send it again.
Yeah.
I'll double check on my end, but if it helps clarify this, then that would be great. Then we'll look at it again. But anything else they could get into more detail about of the ask going forward for these. I think we've had plenty of questions, but that means providing, if they did to do a newsletter, if they did it, shooting out what the impact is, what's the numbers, again, circulation, everything. So point for point for what they're asking for. And if they've already done it the past year, tell us what
Right.
the numbers are, what they've done so far, so we can even address it as a recommendation. Because at this point, we're just, and we don't want to cut off an arm because we don't know anything about it. We'll cut something off and it ended up being something that was successful.
If
And
if it's tied to the invoice, it's easier. That's a deliverable.
So hopefully, like I said, hopefully we can get something from finance.
That means working together, not fighting each other. I hope so. I don't want to get
request
that
all
into.
day.
All right. So yeah, between the two, that'll certainly help us get to the nitty gritty.
Looks like this horse is dead now. Let's move on.
All right. Okay.
So
I think
could
the
I
only
touch
thing-
on one thing real quick? We were talking about the RFPs, if that's how we're gonna move to it. We have to realize that those come in.
And they're sealed. And then they're gonna have to be opened in front of a committee. And we're gonna have to determine who that's gonna be because they can't.
Cannot have any conflicts. If they're sitting on that committee to score that RFP.
They're open, the clerk is responsible for opening them and has a witness.
Right.
Then the RFPs are forwarded to the department director. The department director then develops a team to do the rating and ranking.
Okay, well, I sat in 2 of those yesterday, and they were opened, Cassandra opened them in front of us that were.
Yeah,
had to
they
sit there.
invite the department
They
director.
didn't go to the department head. We sat there and we scored them. And we could not be in, like these were for Travis Martinez's department. Travis could not be in there.
Yeah, for
So
conflict.
we scored them. So I'm just pointing that out, that we'll have to probably follow their procedures.
Okay.
Okay, and so, we kind of need to be aware of that.
So we're specifying the RFPs, because I know we talked about RFPs for even event or so on, but this process that
This
we're
is
talking
something
about.
different, but I just
for-
wanted to go back to, we had
Yeah.
talked about, did we want to move to the RFP away from the applications that we use now?
So are you saying a different committee would have to be used besides the Lodgers Tax Board if we
There
do?
could
our-
probably be some of you on that committee, I
Uh-huh.
would think. I don't know that for sure. But I know there can't be a conflict, like,
That's the way we did that.
okay.
Members would like, whoever could do it would sit on that committee and it would be staff
staff and.
board members.
So that means that the RFP would have to be, as long as it's correct and it doesn't violate lodger's tax procedure, then we shouldn't have an issue about it. They're just selecting the best entity
The
recommendation, yeah.
rating and ranking.
Rating
based
and
on the
ranking.
criteria.
Yeah.
So then after the fact, the board couldn't have issue with it or vote
And
it down.
I can try to get a
Uh,
better
'cause they're the
clarification
winner.
from Cassandra on that.
Okay,
Like I say, this was the first, I just kind of got pulled into that.
That, and I had not sat in on one before, and
you bring up a good point, because I'm thinking of it as a better process for us to select. But if it also, I'd have to let that go, as long as we have the understanding that our RFP process doesn't violate lodger's tax rules, then I wouldn't have an issue with it. But if we end up finding out afterwards that we have a RFP one and the recommendation and it was in violation,
Whoever said
I
that
want to
scored
reserve the
it
right
as a
to be able to
conflict of
recommend that.
interest.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So definitely something we need to talk about. So for this nationwide, we're talking about if we
That's
have a.
totally different than people coming forward for lodging.
Yeah,
tax money.
and that's probably a bit easier, so it's like the 505 contract you're talking about, right?
The
Yeah.
way the chairman
Of the selection committee, of the rating and ranking committee would do that, is you have outliers. If somebody's over, and it's real obvious, and I recall it doing it a lot, not a lot, but it would happen occasionally. Someone would rank a particular firm, because we were ranking firms for, let's say, for consulting,
Right.
for master plan. Someone would rank a firm really, really high, and then you have 3 or 4 of the other committee members ranking them a 4 versus a 10. You know, there's an outlier, so the department director would look at that and say, what's going on here? And it could actually question the person doing that and saying, this ranking is not right. And we would call there at that level. Because those are outliers, and those are real obvious, but when you see a bunch of 4s, 3s, 2s, you know, you don't have an outlier, but a couple of times, and I had to call the staff person on it and say, hey, what's going on here? This is too high.
Okay.
I'm just, like I say,
You
just
hope the,
pointing that
Out right now, that,
okay.
Yeah, well,
Make sure
we don't have conflict.
Well, yeah, and we'll probably need to have to discuss it whether that's gonna be the need for everything or the need for bigger things. So if it's gonna be too complicated for the smaller items, we just fix procedure and get the smaller items so they're not bogged down by the process, or people upset about thinking, it's more of a bureaucratic effort, then we need to address that. If we could streamline it for sure, we answer these questions RFP process, we can do it for all, but maybe we can find a middle ground and saying, look, big stuff, RFP for sure. Smaller stuff, we determine $1, let's streamline it and we could just approve it. It's not a huge,
Application process.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, was,
This one, Elmer, I believe you brought this. in,
I've asked,
are we in other business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're in the discussion of the RFP for nationwide marketing.
On this, okay.
okay,
go
let
ahead.
me present it quickly.
not quickly, it's a little bit, please bear with me.
It'll take a little bit of time, but we're doing a really good, with Sunny 505, we're reaching, the markets we're reaching are New Mexico, Southern Colorado, East Texas, parts of Arizona, probably. That's what we're reaching with Sunny 505, but we're not reaching Canada, we're not reaching the rest of the country. We're not reaching Canada, we're not reaching Mexico, we're not reaching the rest of the United States. An example, and so at one time we did media marketing where we brought in travel writers from all over the country that actually came to Las Vegas, and it was a 2 or 3 day stint, and they would actually write articles about that, and I'll give you some details. An example of where it worked, and it wasn't part of the media marketing, was when we were doing the rally. I don't know how Benito did it, but he was able to bring in a writer from Easy Rider magazine. They came in and stayed at a hotel and stuff. We put him up, I think. But he flew in and he wrote, he stayed here for the 3 days of the rally, wrote an article. That article hit in the spring. The rally was in July. That article hit in the spring, and it was a 2.5 page article. Still have it. Two page article in Easy Rider magazine. Then I told William, let's find a map. So we found a map of the United States and had Mexico and Canada on it. And we asked people as they that came in and wrote in, come up to the rally tent, put a pin as where you're from. We had like 35, 38 states represented on pins, Canada and Mexico. And when we asked people, some people came in, they had the magazine in their saddlebags. Other people came in and they said, we saw the magazine. So we know that reaches. Now a lot of magazine is going digital. So not only do you have it, like you're doing QR codes, you're going digital.
Want it to go viral.
Yeah. So I know that the CCHP, Main Street, I think, or Associated Main Street, initiated a media marketing campaign last year. And I happened to run into them because I was at a restaurant where the travel writers were at. And yeah, they were here for 2 or 3 days and they had a tour and then the articles came out. So I did get some information and basically they had, and it's not real readable, they had from this event they did, they had 47 million people were reached from the articles that were written in various magazines by these driver writers. And when you look at the advertising value, let's say you buy an ad in Western magazine, and it costs several $100s to get a little 3x2 ad. You look at the whole article and you count that as an ad. So you start to figure the value of that ad as a whole page versus just a little thing. So they met, with that small piece of advertising, they hit $1.2 million in advertising, of potential advertising. Their investment was, I think, $13,000 in matching funds from the state and $6,000 they raised. That's what I was reading in their stuff. They hit the Miami Herald, they hit the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, they hit the Baltimore Sun, the Mercury News, the Orange County Register, and your Orlando Centennial. So I don't know if you were around when this happened.
I know prior groups that done it. Main Street, Las Vegas First had approached for it, and I know years ago, I think when you were on the large tax board in the past, I think that long ago we've done something of similar nature where we said we had the writer come in, they were at the plaza, they wrote it, and it became a hit. And these days, we could use a combination of, we use those magazines for the print and it's electronic, but these days we're calling them influencers, right? Social media influencers or something. So we find, that, because even for news articles or advertising now, it's the video arena. They put it on TikTok, they put it on YouTube, and and even for the historical stuff, we're seeing some of it. You guys have seen some of the YouTube videos of the flyovers for Las Vegas and some of it, but we could probably, when I talk about going viral, is there are guys out there that are of this, that's a writer, and so on, but they're doing it in video and so on. They have heavy influence, and meaning millions and millions of followers, where he puts up something and people weren't even looking for Las Vegas. He or she has put that out there, and all of a sudden we're on the radar, and it's virally goes out, and they're continuously getting Las Vegas content over and over again. So this was the old school version of it, and it certainly should be part of our whole portfolio. We're hitting this type of marketing between digital and so on. It's worked, like I said, it's worked before.
So the way that it could be implemented is the city would put out an RFP for a media marketing campaign to do this kind of work. There's firms around that would do that. We know one firm that worked for us before, but there probably are others.
And 505 has it in their contract. So 505 has a section there for the media relate, including disseminating monthly.
So they could respond. 505 is only reaching New Mexico and southern Colorado and Texas.
We want
So-
a bigger reach.
So the way it works is the city would put the RFP out, end up contract, find the best firm for it. The firm flies in and pays for in the case that I saw, paid for the flight of the travel writers, and went and got comp rooms with the hotels and comp meals with the restaurants. The hotels would get written about, the restaurants would get written about, would get stories written about, and also all the marketing that we're talking about. Then, over the 3 or 4 day period that they're here, there's an organized tour. The city would get the buses
Guide 'em around.
together and the tour guides. So there's organized tours that take them not only in Las Vegas, but outside of Las Vegas. So that they would go to Fort Union National Monument. They would go to Pecos National Monument. In the Villanelle State Park, Story Lake State Park, Sipapu Ski Area. That's in the outside region. Locally, they would do the tours of hot springs, the tours of the historic plaza, and you have people like, let's say, Elmo Baca, historians, that they can talk to them and become part of the tour guides. So it's all local people providing that information. The key thing about taking the travel writers out to these places is that any tourist can go to. So you don't go to like somebody's house or somebody's that they're doing. It has to be a place where any tourist can go to. And I saw this tour that it included, now you've got the Watros coffee shop. So they're going to Fort Union, you stop at that coffee shop. So there's a write-up on that coffee shop. So anyway,
So are you thinking one big RFP or multiple RFPs that do, target different things? As long as it's national,
no, one RFP
one RFP?
that says, can you bring in, how many can you bring in, and how many tours can you do, and how would it work, and how much would it cost to do this? I
Okay.
know that when we did that for the city back in 2003 or something like that, I think it was costing us like $75,000-$80,000.
Was it Geiger?
Okay.
That was Geiger then.
So we could, in our RFP, we can specify, we want this percentage of it to be writers, this percentage of it to be writer slash influencers and so on. And we could break it down so we have a full coverage of what's going on, kind of like how we do for print and no print electronic, trying to get that broad spectrum of what we can get.
Right,
Okay.
but that goes outside of New Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not looking for travel writers that come in from New Mexico. They can just come up to Las Vegas and
Right,
story.
it doesn't work. We want something from the, so do you think that company is coming from outside of New Mexico as well, you think?
it could be a company that I'm saying we put an RFP out. It could
See
be a
what
company
happens.
in New Mexico that says we can do it,
Yeah,
or it can be Geiger that says they can do it, or it can be anybody
but
else.
we specify that we want it to be outside. Okay.
No, you don't need to specify. You can. Not in your RFP. It's open to anybody.
Okay.
It's a public.
No, as far as the writers and so on.
Oh, yeah, you
We're
can
asking
write
for the,
Do you want to hit Canada and do you want to hit Mexico?
Question. In your research that you've done, what has Santa Fe and Taos done? What were they using? Because they get international. They get them from all over. Are they using the same?
I don't know who they're using, but
How could we find that out? I mean, would you go to their city and ask them about?
if they're doing it, yes. I don't know if they're doing it.
They're always doing something.
Right, but we don't know if they're doing it.
I would imagine on the digital, I mean, the reach is, look, for, you guys know this as far as the digital reach, I mean, there's no bounds
Right.
to where that can go, even if it was local, somebody puts it out to somebody national, and it's everywhere, and then it's international. It's amazing how some of these stars, I mean, they're bigger than anyone on earth, and they're a YouTube star, and they have more influence than some of the leaders on earth. But just to clarify, 505, even if haven't been doing it because they've been focusing on others, but in their contract, they're saying news releases and pitching regional and national media to write stories on Las Vegas. So 12,000 is there. Again, that's one more clarification if they could provide to us for it, because we want to go to RFP for a bigger one. But what's their reach? What did they do last year? Who wrote about us? if they could provide that information, cause if we did it last year and we're asking for it again this year, well, who's the writer? And what hits did we get? That could provide us with some feedback for a bigger RFP of what we need to do.
And we need the consultant who would be successful to come here, research Las Vegas, and develop the itinerary themselves. 'Cause
Who
it's
to
a fresh-
target, yeah.
Fresh set of eyes that sees what we have available. I mean, these guys, they actually did some pretty cool stuff last time. They did an orientation at the railroad depot, talking about the districts. They did Santa Fe Trail. They did meals at the restaurants. They did an orientation at Bridge Street and Santa Fe Trail and how that all worked. They did a history of the Norte murals. You know, that's significant. When you see them, people say, well, what's all this about? But to have someone to explain it and then write about that so that it becomes almost like a destination or something to see.
And then see this,
Then they did stuff at the theater and they talked about the movie and on all the movie history in Las Vegas. Because Vegas has a huge history. So they even did fly fishing. They did some fly fishing seminars. Because there's fly fishing in Pecos and there's fly fishing up in the Gallinas in the area. Say they did.
I don't want to interrupt you. That brings us with the county as well. Is that we, as a board, now that you're on board, I know there's a long list, is getting back to working with the county. County also collects lodgers tax dollars, but we're one county. I mean, Las Vegas is the chair of it, but if I consider Las Vegas is the county and all the tourist attractions that the county provides as well. If we could work together on something like this, then maybe they're providing X amount of dollars as well, and we're having RFP, and we're able to use the resource and advertise the resources of the county, and work together on that. I know we've done it in the deep past, but it's been some time since we've coordinated with the county. If we could get that going again, I think
That'd be
we'll get this
important
better.
because
Yeah.
you've got, I mean, you're actually talking about a region. The
Right.
Northeast region is, in a way, has really been not discovered. The
Absolutely,
Northeast region. And there's, you have the Tri-County area, actually more than that. And, but I think Vegas is a hub, and I think if we take the
Yes.
leadership role in this, I mean, we can start to make an impact.
I
For the
just
entire
know,
region.
going back, almost through all the years that we did all that Geiger stuff, it wasn't immediate either. Some of those stories came out, down the road, and then those people eventually made it here, It wasn't that they were all gonna be done, written and produced and put out, within 3 months. Some of them took some time to do it. And I know the community benefited from Geiger's work for years, not just immediately. And I think those are areas we need to go and look at. I don't know what the RFP amount would be, but I think I recommend that we look at that. It's a no-brainer, I think.
It's a no-brainer. We've got the money. We know that we're trying to reach and advertise out, marketing. That's what lodgers tax is for. We know that some of it's work, but I think the difference between the past and today, it's gonna be easier to count, easier to figure that out, the impact. The minute you go viral on some of these things, or if the Associated Press, because, in the past, we didn't have the internet to show the numbers, to show the hits, to show the stuff, so we were kinda, the viral was more localized or so on, or it finally got to our area. Now we can see more of the immediate impact of what these guys are doing. They post it, it's not just posted in their circulation for print. When it goes digital, we could see if it flies across the country or around the world for it. So I think it's even more important. It strolls right into all of our what's present today in social media and in influencing. I mean, even for the hotels, like we're shifting from traditional methods of doing, but we're kind of doing the same way. Our co-op for the advertising for our hotels, that's what they're looking at. We're like, look, we're doing these same things over and over again, but we're missing the boat on and we have that conversation, is that we should be introducing our brand to the people that can get our message out there. And this was the old school, this is certainly the new school. We need to definitely have a good portion of our budget pointed in that direction. It's not so non-traditional anymore. It's part of the mainstream of marketing.
So Scott, I have the actually RFP we did back in close to the 1900s. I think it was a little bit after the 1900s.
Well, it's a good place to start, you know?
But I think that we can massage it with some of the concepts and ideas that we need to implement for the current, for the current environment. So I have that available, like, just make that available to you.
So recommend.
So if that needs an official recommendation, so I think we're all, the board's on the same page of it's something we definitely want to have as a big
Pursue,
portion
yeah.
to pursue.
'Cause we'll have to massage it.
Now we just want to determine, so we've got the concept, and then whatever's the modern concept, put it together, then we could determine, that's the scope of work that we're requesting in the RFP, and how big we would like to go at it, and then we'll see what happens, but let's pursue it. And hopefully we don't need too much.
I have a couple of questions, non-related. Number one, when would we be having another meeting? What's like an estimated time, a month from now? Like this
I think
contract,
the way it was originally
So it's-
set up was it would meet quarterly,
Quarterly. So
but
the
we've
rules are it's
been trying to
quarterly.
get some stuff handled,
but
so.
you're trying to take care of this contract with 7505, so do you think we can get it wrapped up in a month?
I would hope so.
Okay, so then if that's the case.
Once we get it to you guys, then it has to go to council.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sort of looking at. And then earlier, I don't know if it was you, Scott, or Lucas talked about that we're trying to get couple more members to 7, is that what he said? So hopefully we can get that done, by the next meeting, if we can.
State requires 5, and so I
The state
think the
says usually
city
under
wanted
5, but
7,
the city
so.
ordinance is 7.
So as
Okay.
long as we have 5, we're okay.
Technically, on the state one, we need to
Technically,
revisit
right.
that as far as the specific members.
Right.
That's
And then I
That's what I
guess,
said, I've been reading those statutes back and forth, so.
It gets interesting when you drill down to it, but it's worse when it's a gray area.
Right.
Then we start having confusion, but I believe the next quarterly is in October, correct? Am I doing this wrong?
We've had so many meetings that I don't
We
remember
absolutely,
what
these special meetings that,
we'll check on next meeting.
it may be. If that's the regularly scheduled quarterly, then that's on time, but if, let us know if that's something that needs to be decided on before the actual quarterly meeting, then we go forward.
and then my other question was in relation to that. I've been here 2.5 years, I think. How long have we been here? I don't know. We've never had an election of officers. I don't even know we have a vice chair.
Yeah, I don't either, and I think that was something that we were trying to hope that council got the board kind of situated, and then we could, that was
We
kind
can
of the
take care of
plan.
all that. If they appoint 2 more members, is that what we need?
Something like
Yeah.
that, I don't know.
I
So
don't
that we
remember the
can,
exact numbers
maybe
now.
we can start moving forward to, so we can have some kind of
I think
backup.
I'll clarify, I think really going forward, I mean, with the 5 over the 7, but the largest portion of it is probably the strongest portion that needs to be strengthened so that we're fitting within the state at least, and then the city going forward.
So those are the 2 things. Number 1, when's the next meeting? Number 2, when do we have officer election?
Okay, all right. And one more item.
Would y'all be able to look over those minutes? I'm sorry I didn't get those to you. We spent 3 days last week in Carlsbad, Charles and I. And then yesterday I got back and they told me I had 3 meetings. So I was like going crazy.
Give it to
So I didn't put them in the packet.
Is there something,
So like,
Need them,
well,
it's something we could table until the
we can
next.
table the next meeting. It's just, Cassandra pushes me to get them
a
approved.
lot of information.
Yeah.
To go
So that's
We
fine.
did a lot on the
I
last
know.
one, so I think
Well,
we should give time.
Well, we
to
tabled it
review
already, so
Okay,
technically.
That's
it's-
fine.
It's on the table.
all right. So then
Already.
we'll do it next meeting, so.
I've got to go back to work, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Roll
All right, everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, meeting
Scott,
adjourned.
did you have one more thing?
No.
I'm sorry.
They're bugging us from the office.
Oh, okay.
So-
to park our cars under the carport so the buses need
This
to go
is
back
the-
under there.
When it was hailing, and so now they want the buses in there. It's like, come get our keys.
Did we get hail?
Yeah,
Over
we
there
did
in
it
South
at the
Park,
train station.
Soaked.
And we were, so we were leaving and it started hailing. So we turned around and we went and put our vehicles under the cover because the buses were out. And then we had to run from the cover back to the vehicle we were getting in. And we were both dripping wet. We didn't have a dry spot on us.
Yeah, we had about an inch of
I was on the road, I didn't see, I just could see.
So they
the water on
have
the side.
every quarter.
Very good, thank you.
Longer than I wanted to, but.
Oh, I know.
Thank you.
You have to go